Yo, 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 it's your Jordan. Welcome back to another reaction video. This time around, we are reacting to the 10 most dangerous cities in the US. I almost said the UK there. I'm on about the US. I'm interested to see this because this is for 2020. So this was last year. So, you know, there's going to be some cities that are like new on the map. Do you know what I mean? Like over here in the UK, there's some towns and shit that are coming up as active. Like if you don't know what active means, it means like they're hot. Like there's a lot of shit that goes down in them cities. One of them cities is one of them towns in the UK I actually live in. It's called Luton. I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's like outskirts. It's like above North London. And yeah, there's been bare shit going down here recently, man. Like it's not good to see. You know, I want the best. I want the best for where I come from. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, I ain't got control of that. None of that. Less of the talking. Let's get into the video, man. I want to see this shit. Let's go.
What are you trying to hide? Don't you realize you're involved in a murder? You've got yourself in a jam it's not going to be easy to get out of, unless you're on the level with me. This is no time for secrets.
Murder. Such a scary word. Depending on where you live, it can be a really scary word, or just another regular day
Yeah,
in my
'cause
hood.
there's some towns
word.
that nothing goes on
Hopefully,
at all.
if you live in a really scary, murdery place, you probably have your doors locked right now as you watch this informative video. No, you'll be okay. Probably. Maybe. Things might seem like they're
Like I'm gonna tell you now, yeah, it's not a secret because it was on the news. But as of today, today is the 8th of March, 2021. Today, someone was stabbed. In Luton. Last week, someone was shot by a shotgun in Luton over, I think it was a robbery. You know, like some mad shit going on here, and I'm not involved because why would I be involved? I'm fucking a 20-year-old don that sits here making reaction videos. Do you know what I mean? I ain't about that shit.
going to hell in a handbasket these days, as the saying goes. But you might be surprised to hear it's not as bad as it used to be. Going back to 1950, when they started counting murders, I guess, today's homicide rate is far below its peak. We're closer to how things were in the mid-60s these days. Back in 1970, 1980, and 1991, things were really bad. Like there were twice as many murders than today. And
You want to hear my reason for that? Because music has a lot of influence on people, right? What did they used to rap about a lot in the 80s and that? In the 90s. Obviously you had like Tupac and stuff. They rapped about killing people a lot. Just like how rappers today do. But rappers today rap more about the drugs and taking the drugs than killing people. And you know what, you had like the formations or the rise of the Crips and the Bloods and all that. So you know what I mean? Like that's my opinion.
Dear American, you think things are bad in your hood? Check out the murder rates in other countries. Now, we'll go into this a little bit later, but for
Brazil.
perspective, El Salvador has 11 times more murders per capita than the USA.
Oh, that's the population.
In
my
fact,
bad.
it's kind of a Central American Caribbean sweep for highest murder rates, outside of a couple of African nations.
Jamaica.
We're way down here, somewhat near as many murders per capita as Greenland and Samoa. The least murdery country? There's a handful of small countries where nobody got murdered last year, and then Japan, where hardly anybody gets murdered ever. I guess
How
they
can
don't have guns there?
28% of somebody get murdered?
Today in America, you have about a 1 in 20,000 chance of being murdered. But that number is much higher if you live in the cities we're going to talk about. So, lock your doors as we go through America's Murder Capitals 2020.
Ad. Really? Fuck.
If I would have had this when I was maybe 20.
Shut up. We're only getting into the video now? Been waiting
All right,
4
get
minutes for
started
this.
here. First up on our murder capital tour of the U.S. is Newark, New Jersey.
If you're from any of these
Here in
places,
Newark, there were
let
a
me know
total
down
of
below.
75 murders, which may or may not sound like a lot, but for a city of 282,000 people, that's a lot. For perspective, the entire state of West Virginia only had 67. You have a 1 in 3,000 chance of being killed in Newark every year. And get this, that's actually way down from the peak in 1960. That means Newark is safer now more than ever, and it's still really bad here. Apparently, they've been cracking down here in Newark, with aid coming from the FBI, State Attorney's Office, and New Jersey State Police. Newark PD has even resorted to providing haircuts for kids for school, giving away turkeys and coats along with school supplies to quell the violence.
That's good.
But the kids aren't the ones shooting people? If you don't want to get killed, stay in the north and east parts of Newark. If you want to be killed, then go to the south and west parts of Newark. Downtown is apparently better, but still nowhere near safe. Outside of Camden, Trenton, Atlantic City, and Patterson, the rest of the state's pretty safe, since as a whole,
Man,
New
America
Jersey's
just
the
looks
fifth
so
safest
different
state
to the
in
UK. It's actually crazy.
Where are we head next? Let's follow this paramedic to Kansas City, Missouri, aka KCMO, aka KC Ghetto, at least in some parts. Here in Kansas City, Missouri, there were 137 murders last year. That's more than the whole state of Massachusetts. What's going on here, people? It's getting worse here, at least lately. Last
I have
year,
a
the
feeling
city
number
nearly
one's gonna
broke a
be
record for
Chicago.
murders,
It has
which
to
it
be.
had set
It has
2
to
years
be.
prior. And just
Detroit.
about every single murder is unsolved, meaning the perps are still on the streets here. The KCPD has been urged to put more homicide detectives on the streets
Or Houston. No,
and
not
develop
Houston.
a witness protection program to make it easier for people to
Atlanta.
come forward with leads. Just as I was writing this, a mass shooting in Kansas City was at the top of the news. I think they said this happened at a Kansas City Chiefs celebration party. Why does sports bring out the
What?
worst
Why
in people?
a sports
people?
party, man?
2/3 of
If you're
those
gonna
killed in
beef
Kansas
at a
City were
sports
black
party,
males,
fucking scrap it out.
contributing to
Tackle each
Missouri's
other, especially
number
if it's a
one ranking
football
for
club.
black homicide victimization. Don't worry, Missouri, we'll be back again to visit you again before the end of this video. But for now, we heard some gunshots, so we're gonna go en route to the city
Memphis.
of Memphis. Here in Memphis, there were 191 murders. What the?
What?
That's more than the whole state of Wisconsin in a year. And it's getting worse here too. 2 years ago, Memphis saw 180 people get killed, and then last year it was 187. It's so bad here in Memphis that officials are calling it a crisis. You think? The Justice Department now has a plan to solve problems in places like Memphis. It's called Operation Relentless Pursuit. It's going to involve more money.
The only way you're going to reduce murders in America is with gun laws. But the thing is, with the UK not having, you know, stuff to protect them, like citizens, people of the UK haven't got anything to protect themselves with. We have to rely on the police, and sometimes the police aren't the best option. And they're not always the right option. Like, if you've got somebody trying to rob you, you're going to have to give your stuff away. Obviously, if they've got you up by, like, a grip with a knife or something. Whereas, like, if you've got a gun, for example, you can protect yourself by, if you see them approaching you with and they back out a knife, you can just pop. Do you know what I mean? Protect yourself. Which, if over in the, like, it's a big thing for America to give up their guns, man, because they've been around for centuries.
Money, officers, and technology, and syncing databases to try to figure out a way to catch these killers. If you're watching this from another country, well, yes, the United States has some really terrible, scary places, but nothing like countries like Venezuela, where 8% of all murders happen worldwide. Mexico saw 6% of the world's murders last year. Colombia had 6% of the world's murders. Brazil had 4%, and South Africa had 3%.
South
Here's a
Africa's
troubling
supposed to be
stat.
nice. What?
400,000 people were murdered worldwide last year. That's more than died from drowning. Twice as many people, or 800,000, killed themselves last year.
You see this? What year is this? 2017. Oh.
Sure. If you live in certain Baton Rouge neighborhoods, you might feel like you're in a foreign country. That's because you have a 1 in 2,800 chance of being murdered if you live here. 83 people were homicide victims last year, which was actually down from 2017 when 105 people were killed. That's a lot. This person lives in Baton Rouge, and she had some poignant things to say. crime, violence, mental health issues, racism. I can count on two hands the people worth the
Racism's
investment of a
everywhere.
long-term relationship. I hated moving there as a child, and I fully loathe the place now. Louisiana can literally break off and float out into the Gulf, and I wouldn't care, except I hope Baton Rouge was the first to drown. Damn.
Wow.
The areas in Baton Rouge where most of the murders happen are in low-income areas where high drug use and gangs are prevalent. No surprises there. Hurricane Katrina made the problem worse, apparently.
Did you know Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate in the world?
I think, maybe, I heard that
fuck
once.
was that?
Snappy. Is that really true?
In my ears.
Wow, it looks
My
like
poor ears
Louisiana
had to
had
listen to that.
way more people locked up a few years ago, but it's gone down? What, are they letting people out? Also, Oklahoma took the lead for a minute. In terms of countries,
I'm not gonna be honest. Can we just? I don't want to see the stats. I want to know the cities where you. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about the statistics. I just want to know the names of the places. Ah,
oh yeah, we're number one. The most locked up people of all. So Louisiana does have more people locked up than anywhere else in the world per capita.
yeah.
And look at all the countries that are over capacity for their prisons. Have you ever been to jail, Mappy?
No, never, and I don't plan to.
Yeah, well, I don't think you'd survive very long in there.
Maybe I'd make friends. The other prisoners
Get
could
off
use
my
me to find a
screen.
way to escape.
That's a good point, Mappy. Oh, good old Mappy. Please don't ever wind up in jail. We'll never see you again. We don't have to go very far to get to our next murder capital of the U.S.,
New Orleans.
Here, 119 people were murdered last
Oh yeah, I just clocked. I was gonna point out, LA isn't that Los Angeles, but Louisiana. See, I know this shit. I should be American. I'm telling you.
year that they know of, which is way better than in previous years, like in 50 years. But why? Well, for one, the mayor says her plan on using data-driven police interventions and community outreach is working. The Big Easy was the murder capital of America in 94, and from 94 to 2013, the city averaged 250 murders annually. Oh, but it's still bad here, and it's still more dangerous than in most places in Mexico and Venezuela. Tourists and residents are told to walk in groups. I've been to many areas in New Orleans, and besides just the rundown post-Katrina neighborhoods, you can almost get stabbed just a block off of Bourbon Street while taking a pee by a dumpster. Happened to me.
Jesus.
There's rules
Stabbed
on what to
in
do
America.
so you don't
They
get
have
killed in
stabbings
New
over
Orleans.
there.
Stay
What?
away from bad neighborhoods.
That's the
Okay.
UK thing.
Travel in groups. Be home by 1 a.m. Don't go to cemeteries. Don't look like you're weak. Carry a gun. Okay. Man, some serious stuff.
That's 6 stadium. Detroit. Number 5.
Some Detroiters prefer to dwell in these new, self-contained cities within a city. Others in new cooperatives or friendly neighborhoods. Whatever the choice, Detroiters rate their city high for living, working,
Oh,
and
my
sheer
eye.
enjoyment.
You see this bit of hair? It keeps getting in my eye, man. It makes it itch.
Yeah, Detroit is nothing like that now. Of course Detroit's on this list. This city saw 261 people murdered last year alone, which is more than the whole state of New
Fuck.
Jersey, which has a city on this list. And murders are down here too.
Look at the amount of abandoned buildings, man. I bet that house on the left is like, and that house on the right. We're looking at a minimum 3-bed house. How much does that probably cost over in the US? Leave that down in the comments below. I want to know. Because here in the UK, if you want to get a 2-bed apartment in a place like in the UK, the further up north you go, the cheaper the houses get. If you want to go like Midlands, you're looking at around £180,000 for a 2-bed apartment, like a new build one, like a new one. You could probably get like a fucking 3-bed house in America with that. It's a joke. Honestly, it's a joke.
It's only the first time since 1967 where there were less than 300 killings in the city. Probably because everyone's leaving. Typically, a city's crime rate goes up when its population goes down, so Detroit's an interesting case. Hopefully, it's a long-term trend. But if you think that's bad, in 1974, there were 714 murders here, and in 91, there were 615. So now
What?
it's nothing. Of course, population declines left abandoned buildings behind, which have become magnets for the drug trade and angry, mean people. Poverty, crime, shootings, drugs, and urban blight in
Look at
Detroit
the
are ongoing
buildings.
problems. Poverty-wise, a typical Detroit neighborhood made about 25 grand last year, the second lowest in the country and about half of what the typical American household made. Similarly, its poverty rate of 40% is the second highest in the
Look
country,
at that.
well more than double the national population.
That is a nice house over here. Obviously, not the state it's in, of course. Like, nobody's gonna live in there except a squatter. But like, if you was to refurbish that, oh my god, that house would be worth like 500k. And now it's just derelict, sat there.
Poverty rate of 15%.
Fuck, man.
Birmingham, Alabama is our 4th murder capital of the U.S. That might
Birmingham.
throw you off since
That's a
Detroit's
place
only
in the
5th,
UK
but
as well.
if you're measuring actual murders per capita, the numbers don't lie. Here in Birmingham, there were 88 murders, and for a city of just over 200,000 people, that means residents have a 1 in 2,400 chance of being killed every year. You know your city's bad when the Venezuelan government's telling residents to avoid you. How are people being killed in the U.S.? This chart shows that about half of all murders are by a handgun, another 3,000 are by an unidentified gun, 1,500 people were stabbed to death, and then you have bare hands, blunt objects, poisoned? Only 5 people were poisoned last year in the U.S.? That
Strangulation.
seems low. Now, Birmingham's a very black city, where 2/3 of the population is African American. What percentage of murder victims in the U.S. are black men? Well, according to this chart, black Americans were only slightly more likely to be killed in the U.S., casting aside the myth that most murders in the U.S. are black-on-black crimes. Another interesting stat, most murders don't cross racial lines, meaning white people kill white people and black people kill black people. Of all black homicide victims, 86% were male, and the average age is 31 years old. 83% of black victims were shot and killed with guns. Here in Jackson, Mississippi, things certainly have been better, especially on the south side of town. There were
Jackson.
78
I've
murders
never
here,
heard of
which
this
means
place.
folks had a 1 in 2,100 chance of being a victim themselves. That's only twice as high as dying in an accidental drowning.
So number 1 is Chicago. I sound dumb as fuck here. Fuck. Listen to me, please. Listen to me with a little light-hearted, open mind. Yeah. Is Chicago its own city? It is, isn't it? I'm not being dumb here. If it is, I'm putting that as top 2. But what could the other one be though? Oh, I said Atlanta. Yeah, I'm sticking with Atlanta.
Heck, your odds of
and
falling
Chicago.
downstairs and dying is 1 in 1,600. Jackson's crime has been ticking up lately, but look at the last few years. This news channel in Jackson keeps a running tally of Jackson murders, which is sad. Last year ended with a bunch of shootings right on New Year's Eve in Jackson, where people were just randomly shooting into homes. What is going on, people?
Why?
Which U.S. cities are actually decreasing their
riding
murder
past
rates?
someone's house.
Well, New York City had like 2,200 murders in 1990, but their murder rate's down by 90%. Chicago peaked in the early 90s as well, though the South Side is notoriously terrible for shootings. San Francisco, too, though covered in poop, has seen its homicide rate go down by
What?
quite a bit. San Francisco, too, though covered in poop,
Why? Oh. Why is it covered in poop? Am I missing something here?
has seen its homicide rate go down by quite a bit. Who's our homicide runner-up?
St. Louis. Where is this? I'm pissed that I got it wrong. St. Louis. I've heard of this like once, and I think it was on like 2K or some shit.
St. Louis is. Here, more than 194 murders happened last year. For a city of over 300,000
Number one
people,
has
that's
to
a
be
lot.
Chicago.
You have about a 1 in 1,600 chance of dying in St. Louis every year, and likely by a gun. Way back in the early 90s, there were 100 more murders a year here, and over time, murders here have gone up and down, but currently the number of murders each year are as high now as this city's seen since the late 90s. Downtown's pretty nice, at least in the winter months, a fact I can attest since I was just there a month ago. However, the north side of St. Louis is very, very bad, and where most of the problems happen, likely between people fighting over drugs or gang BS or both. St. Louis has a new plan called Cure Violence, which resembles Chicago's plan called Ceasefire.
Your violence, everyone. When they release this plan, violence rates are going to drop to 0. Guarantee it.
The goal is to treat gun violence like it's a disease and to stop its spread by helping youth see alternatives to violence and by convincing gunshot victims from retaliating.
You are never, ever, ever, ever going to reduce the amount of violence that happens when you have rappers talking about it all the fucking time. Do you know what I mean? Because the kids listen to that. And the kids are easily manipulated. Like over here in England, like drill is a real big thing now. And I'm not saying I don't like it, because to be honest, I listen to it. Like I'm literally self-contradicting myself here, but I'm older and I'm more mature. Like I know I'm not gonna go out there and shank someone. Whereas a kid listening to drill, they're gonna think it's cool and they're gonna go out there and do that. Just like over in other countries, like in America they have guns, so they rap about people shooting each other. You're gonna have youngsters going out there shooting people. Yeah. Once they solve that issue, then we'll start to see change. But until then, no.
Okay, who's our murder capital of the USA?
Oh, looks like I'm stupid then. Baltimore. This just seems like the most... Oh, but I forget. It's 2020. I'm thinking about like the 2000s. So I picked Detroit and Chicago. Well, looks like Baltimore's on the map now.
Baltimore is,
If you're
or
from
as
Baltimore,
people have
like the
called it,
video right now.
Bodymore Murderland. Here in Baltimore, there were 350 murders last year, which is the highest it's been since 1993, and close to an all-time high. It's also 5 years in a row now that there have been more than 300 murders in Baltimore. You have about a 1 in 1,700 chance of being murdered in Baltimore every year, and much higher in certain parts of the city. This site's been tracking homicides in Baltimore, and the last 100 only goes back to Halloween, and it's January right now. Look at the last mayors of Baltimore. Resigned, didn't run for re-election, resigned, didn't run
I'm
for
not
re-election.
surprised. The place
Would
is
you want that
fucking
job?
crazy.
In Baltimore, the stated targets for busts aren't drug offenses. It's trying to find all the damn handguns. There's similar plans on what to do to curb the violence and murder rates here, but it's all the same thing, and it probably won't work. They've even considered flying surveillance planes over Baltimore 24/7. People say the police aren't as aggressive since the Freddie Gray murders and riots in 2015. Others say it's all the illegal guns laying around. Some say it's a drug crisis. Well, there were 417 mass shootings last year in the US, more than one every day. It's white versus
Wow.
white, black versus black. Lots of people here are sick, and big pockets of inner cities in the US have had a breakdown of morality and family values. When the culture of the streets takes precedence over getting a damn job and being responsible, there's nothing we can do to stop it, except throw them all in jail. Can we do that?
The end. I'm gonna stop it right there before the ad. If you like the video, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, share the video. Stay tuned for more. In the comments below, drop down what you want me to react to. And if you do that, I'll make sure I get that done for you. Obviously, if it's what I want to react to, like there's some videos I've had recommended to me that I ain't gonna react to because they don't fit on my channel. I'm sorry. But yeah, man, stay tuned for more. It's been your boy, Jord, and take care.